Chad, could you please hit go live?
And we're live.
Good morning. Welcome to the January 21st meeting of the East Lansing Executive Finance Committee meeting. Chad, could you take a roll call, please?
Yes, Chair, thank you. If I could remind the committee members to please state your name, that you're attending remotely, and the city and or county that you're attending from, along with the state. Peter Dewan.
Present. I'm attending virtually from Lansing, Michigan, Ingham County.
James Kroom.
Hi, Jim Kroom. I'm attending remotely from Leland, Michigan.
Michael Kruger.
Present, attending remotely from East Lansing, Michigan.
And George Lahanas.
Present, reporting remotely from Ingham County, East Lansing.
Okay, that completes the roll call.
Thank you. We have the agenda as presented. Move to approve the agenda as presented by staff and ask for a second.
Second.
Second by Jim. All those in favor say aye.
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 Hearing none, the agenda is adopted. Do we have anyone wishing to address the Executive Finance Committee? Any?
There is, Chair. Currently, we have one caller in the queue.
Okay.
Caller with the last 3 digits of 963, you'll be unmuted and given 5 minutes to speak. If you do not wish to speak, please just say pass. So caller, you've been asked to be unmuted.
Hi, this is Alice Dreger. A couple quick things that I shared with the DMB, but I wanted to also share with you guys as heads of the DDA. One is that Travis Stulliger at Saddleback Restaurant has organized a letter to the governor asking for reopening of restaurants. There doesn't seem to be so far much interest from East Lansing, but the urgency of that is something I'm certainly hearing about from members of the restaurant community in East Lansing, and I wonder if they are afraid to sign on to the letter because of being seen as crossing the line in terms of city leadership. Gyms are open, fitness centers are open, a lot of places are open, but restaurants are not allowed to be open. So I think we're going to see more and more and more East Lansing businesses going under. The second thing is, I think, well, I'm hearing from people that there is a mixed message about downtown. On the one hand, there's lots of energy and money being spent on the idea that we should draw people downtown. On the other hand, there is special masking requirements that we keep passing about downtown, which gives people the message that downtown is exceptionally dangerous and you should stay away from downtown. So I think there's a cross purposes going on there in terms of the messaging, and I don't know how to deal with that, but that strikes me as something that perhaps ought to be dealt with as a possibility of why people are not coming downtown. I've certainly heard from older people that they recognize that downtown has been marked as an especially dangerous area because of the masking. A person who thinks about it differently could feel like it's especially safe, but that's not the messaging that they're getting. They're getting the message there's lots of students who are irresponsible downtown, which is ironic because there's practically nobody downtown every time I go down. Finally, on the Evergreen properties, I think you accidentally stopped service on the sidewalk clearing of the house that you're no longer maintaining. So the staff, I think, did take care of that, and I appreciate it, but if somebody could pay attention to that. But in the more general sense, the Evergreen properties, I've been adding up what they've actually cost us in terms of legal fees, interest on many bonds over the years, and other costs, and it's kind of gobsmacking. So if you think we have nothing to lose because nobody else is at the door, you have to recognize that by hiring Miller Canfield, you're going to be paying a lot in legal fees and continuing to add to the debt. At this point, it strikes me personally that it seems like it's time for a sort of blue ribbon panel on the Evergreen property, something like the financial health team did for the pensions problem, to examine what exactly should happen with those properties. They are stalled. If River Caddis really has identified a tenant and is ready to break ground, great, but I don't think that's what's happening. I think what's happening is further prolongation, as we've seen with other developers, and the costs are just gobsmacking when you look historically at what's happened. That's all. Thanks very much.
Thanks for the call. Are there any other callers, Chad?
No, Chair, that's it.
Okay, we have no written communications that I believe of, and we have our financial report. Is that something that you're going to go through, Adam?
Actually, we're going to do communications from staff.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, just a few updates. You know, the utility project in the Evergreen area is expected to start in the next several weeks. Staff has been working with DPW to address some of the potential impacts from the construction and help with communications. 300 West Grand River did not get approved by City Council this week. As a reminder, that was a conversion of retail space into residential units. The Michigan Liquor Control license and a letter with an opportunity to, for the DDA to comment on liquor license transfer for the Land Shark. And so that's there for the full board consideration. There's no requirement to respond, just providing the local government with the opportunity to comment if they wish to do so. The MSU FCU, that's been extended till April to work through some ongoing operational logistics. The Graduate Hotel has several floors that's in the finishing stages, and they're still on track for completion in late spring. And then, of course, the Place project, we launched a crowdfunding campaign on January 6th. Since launching, we've raised almost $23,000. We continue to plug away and reach out with stakeholders to connect and see if we can partner. If we reach that crowdfunding goal of $50,000, we're eligible for a dollar-for-dollar match for the MEDC, which would essentially bridge the gap for the project and allow us to implement all proposed activities. And then the e-gift card program, we've sold, the DMV had implemented this program, and we feel like it's been very successful. There's been over $31,000 of e-gift cards gifted, and of that 31,000, about 7,700 have been redeemed to date. And that is it for communications from staff.
Jim, go ahead.
Hi, two things. One, could you give a few more details on the liquor license transfer? I think in the original communication that I saw, it wasn't clear that it was a Land Shark. Kind of guessed it was, but do we know anything about the transferees and what the background is on that, what their intentions are? And then secondly, if you could I would appreciate if you could send me a PDF of the downtown placemaking project so I can just pull that off your email and send it out to at least the business we discussed and maybe a couple others.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. And the liquor license transfer, again, is just providing us with an opportunity to comment and to the liquor license transfer. But I do know the Land Shark, the new owners do intend to apply for an entertainment license for council consideration. That's really all the information I'm armed with at this point.
I have a question, Adam. I didn't happen to see the council meeting this past week, so why did the council not go ahead with 300 West Grand River, and what was the rationale?
It was a split 2-2 vote, and there were just the discussion revolved around LMI housing, and then maybe noise in the neighborhood. Is it do we want residential on the first floor? Is that going to set a precedence, moving forward? And so those were some of the concerns that were discussed, and I imagine will be further discussed.
Did council have a recommendation from staff?
That I do not recall. I don't know if, Tom, do you recall if there was a specific recommendation of staff?
There was a recommendation from the Planning Commission for approval, and then there was a couple options in regards to the the conditions and how they could satisfy them. And ultimately, the one council member was absent, so it was a split vote 2-2.
Okay, so is that still, does it still remain on the council's agenda, or?
No, it would have to be, it's failed. So at this point, it's not coming on an agenda unless someone has a motion to reconsider, I guess, the losing side or the prevailing vote could have a motion to reconsider, right? But that's all. It won't come back on the agenda unless there's some other action taken.
Yeah, and I misspoke when I said it will still further be considered. So my apologies.
Okay. Any additional questions of staff following their report?
Question,
Yeah, go ahead, George.
Adam, what's I'm looking at the Patronicity project. Have all of the large donors like DDA and has that all gone in to get to our amount, or are there more big donors that we know about coming forward? Like just
Yeah, that's a great question. I will be presenting to the Arts Commission this evening and requesting that they consider donating to the crowdfunding campaign. And then there's been, I continue to have conversations with several other potential large donors that we hope come to fruition in the very near future. Yeah, other than that, we're going to continue to push on social media and press releases to try to get, the individual donors as well, combined with those potential big donors to meet our goal.
so as the city.
Yeah, I just want to emphasize that I really I'm hopeful that we'll reach the goal. I think, the programming, the activities we're coming up with have already been well received, and it's just a beginning. And for us to really have that impact we're looking for downtown and help the businesses, we're going to have to reach that goal and to be able to implement all the proposed activities.
So Adam, I see that the city of East Lansing and the DMV are listed at 10,000 and 5,000. Is the DDA, am I missing the DDA on here? Or did we not contribute separately?
Yeah, so what you're saying is who contributed directly to the crowdfunding goal.
Yeah.
What's listed in the proposal document, it does indicate, the DDA allocated $75,000, and basically this is a DDA initiative, and we're looking for partners to help bridge that gap.
But our 75,000 doesn't go to any of this match port?
Not to the match, no. So how Patronicity, Public Spaces, Community Places works is they really, it's not a deal breaker, but it's strongly encouraged and under, it's evaluated against whether or not you have that seed money for a project, how real it is. And so we're able to demonstrate that with the DDA and BWL allocation.
So the 75,000, we don't get credit. That's not going to go towards our 50,000.
No, sir.
And how much can one entity give and have it count towards the match? Is 10,000 the max?
Yeah, up to $10,000 or 35% of the project, whichever is less. And so it'd be $10,000 in our case.
We got to try to find some big donors then.
Yeah, I'm all ears. So
Yep.
please reach out if you guys have any suggestions.
So you're saying the DDA can't give an additional 10,000 just to
It'll
close the
find
loop
a-
on George's question?
I believe the DDA probably, they can actually.
So maybe we're the last ones because we gave at the beginning. Maybe we save that last 10,000 to try to close a gap. If we get to 40, the DDA can step in at the end and not lose this money, because that'd be a shame to lose 50.
Yeah, I think that's a good strategy, good game plan. Yeah, I mean,
See if we can
again,
get
if
it
we
elsewhere
make that
first.
$50,000 goal, that's doubling our money and really stretching our resources. So,
Yeah. All right.
That being said, we should probably put that on the agenda for next meeting, because this deal is
Right.
going to come up before the following meeting. So we should get that on the agenda, make sure
Yeah.
everybody's down, which I'm sure they will be.
If the gap within the last 2 days is such that the DDA needs to contribute up to 10,000, whatever can get us to the 50,000, up to 10,000.
okay.
Just if we get to 41,000, the DDA can then step in and poof, we're there. Anyway, good thought.
I can
Mike.
do that. Thank you very much.
The deadline is February 11th.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Peter, I didn't hear you.
I'm sorry, the deadline is February 11th.
February 10th, I believe at
February
midnight, yeah.
Okay. Have you included the proposed goal of the service organization that we talked about previously?
Into that $23,000 that we've collected so far, have I included that amount? No, I have not.
Okay, okay, so that just, that is, appears to be moving forward, so I will report to it.
Great.
At a later date, but that is moving forward.
I'm not sure if it's just me, Peter, but you sound low to me. Does Peter sound low to anybody else?
Yeah, he does. I wasn't sure if it's my computer or not.
Bit muffled.
You might have to holler or go closer. I don't know if you can go any closer, but
Okay, can you hear me?
That's
Any
better.
better?
a
Better?
little better. It just sounds muffled. You sound muffled for some reason, and you haven't in the past.
Yeah, I'm operating from my office. This is the first time that I'm Zooming
Okay.
from the office. So I don't know what's wrong with the audio. I'll have to check that out, but I'll try and speak more loudly.
Yeah, that's I can hear you.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
definitely better.
So let's go on to, if there are no additional questions of staff, the financial reports, item 5 on our agenda. And is that you, Adam?
Chad will be taking us through the financial reports.
Okay, Chad.
All right, so here we're looking at the final fiscal year 2020 financial report that we had to bring back. No changes since the last time that the DDA board saw it back on September 24th. But that's included here in our packet if you have any questions. We also have November 2020 report.
Yeah, I wanted to point something out on both the November and December report, the legal services. You know, we have $12,000 allocated for contracted legal services. And I think we need to just be aware of the fact that that's a limited budget with, you know, the type of legal services that we may or may not require moving forward. We have Miller Canfield and Foster and Swift. I believe, yeah, Miller Canfield, as a reminder, is $3.95 an hour, and Foster Swift is $2.25 an hour. So we really need to keep a close eye on that as we move forward.
All right, thanks, Adam. So the repairs and maintenance in November, we just passed there, 2,200. That was largely the fireplace stone repair in the Ann Street Plaza, as well as a door lock. But if further down on our treasurer's report here, a little further, if you could, Adam, please.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. You can see here the facade improvement program at $633. And then the Harbor Bay downtown amenities were the bike racks and hardware that came through that month. You see the portion of our downtown tree planting and the business support program. The primary purchases were, that was to get our initial Mac Market Place project things going back in November. So that was like some paint supplies and some other personal protective equipment stuff to help us get going for that kind of thing. Okay, so here's December. Again, it is, let's see, legal services, as Adam pointed out, at $1237 there for December. Our project development fund at $32,000, and then the maintenance there was the 500 block gate extensions, and then some refuse room pipe protection for that month. And if we could get to the treasurer's report, You'll see some charges there, $9,885. The Harbor Bay Engineering invoice, some recycling and refuse receptacles. And then much larger for the business support program there, because that's when we started largely purchasing most of the furniture and heaters and accessory items that are going to go throughout town for the Place project. So still working on assembling some of those items and then trying to get a rollout for those, but it pretty much completes the financial reports. If you guys have any questions.
Thank you, Chad. Any questions? All right, hearing none, let's move on to our agenda for our full DDA meeting for the January 28th. Are you going to walk us through this, Adam?
Yeah, and I just want to point out, I'm still working on moving some things around in here, not changing the content of what you're seeing now, but just for an example, art space will be, you'll see it as its own section, a special presentation for next week's meeting. And just maybe some naming conventions of the agenda items. But we have our roll call approval agenda and minutes. But then this time we needed to approve the 2021 meeting schedule and election of officers. We will run through the financial reports as Chad just did, as well as the bond schedule. We have written communications that we discussed earlier from Michigan Liquor Control. Let's see, and then we'll be providing Evergreen Properties update, wayfinding signs. We'll be discussing the River Caddis PSA and the River Caddis conflict waiver, which is actually the Foster Swift conflict waiver. And then 270 West Grand River SUP. And then, as I stated earlier, we'll have a special presentation from folks from Art Space.
What is the 270 West Grand River demo?
That's actually, it should be SUP. It's a site plan application at 270 West Grand. Let's see if I can find it in my notes.
I think that's the Big B.
Yeah, it's a Big B property.
So we don't have to go into tremendous detail. You reminded me that was the address for the Big B location. Is there a timetable by which DTN wishes to demolish the building?
I believe so. We're going to have folks from planning at P&I today discuss that in a little more detail. Yeah, and they'll be able to answer a lot of these questions.
Okay. All right. Does anyone have any questions about the agenda for our full DDA meeting? Hearing none, let's then move on to the Evergreen properties.
And we'll be hearing an update from Heather on the Evergreen properties.
Good evening, everybody.
Hi.
So just an update on the Evergreen properties. As you know, we have the leases expire on those properties on May 8th, May 7th. The majority of those leases, or all of those leases, will expire around that time. When those leases were set, we were in it was a year and a half ago. So we were expecting at that time we wouldn't need to rent them after this year. Due to the pandemic and other things, it looks like we will need to lease these properties for the 21-22 academic year. In saying that, as you know, we currently do not rent 334 Evergreen, and the staff's recommendation to actually begin moving forward with maybe looking at doing the asbestos abatement and getting that property demolished. MSU FCU's contractor, Granger, has reached out to us. They are interested in using that land as a yard where they can store some of their items while they're constructing the building there on the corner. And so if that is the case, then there is an agreement made there would be some type of lease that would, payment that would be made back to the DDA. But that is something that staff is recommending, that we look at that option of going ahead, submitting the RFPs for the asbestos abatement, getting those costs. And then I've worked with one of the local demo contractors that demoed some of the properties in the East Lansing before, just to get an idea of what our costs may be for the demo. So if we're looking at asbestos abatement and hazardous material, fluorescent lights, thermostats, those types of things, would be approximately about $18,000 I'm expecting. And then the demo itself would probably be about 18. And then we would want to add like a 15 to 25% contingency on top of that. So if you recall, we did do a phase 1 and a phase 2. We do have that information available for the bid when we begin bidding out these that property for demo. The other thing is I am researching to see if there's any opportunities. If you recall, when we had 303 Abbott, we were able to get some state money to pay for the demo and the asbestos abatement on that property. So I'm inquiring, I've talked to the rep at the state, and I'm looking at some other sites about maybe some grant dollars available to do that work. So there'd be no cost. Or if MSU FCU does want to use this property, there could be an arrangement where we get all the bids lined up on that, but they actually cover the cost of the demo. So that wouldn't be something the DDA would have to pay for. So staff recommending that we move forward and rent 314, which is the large apartment building, 328, 340, and 344 for the 21-22 year. And we'll be discussing that more at the January board meeting with the full board.
Heather, a question. So are we at the full DDA meeting, are we going to make a determination of whether or not we're moving forward with the recommendation to demo? Is that what the expectation is?
Not so much. At this point, what I would like to do at least is get the DDA to approve the RFP for the asbestos abatement and the hazardous material removal. So then we have that lined up. And so then if it is the decision, if there's an agreement made between the, if the board decides, yes, we're going to go ahead and demo, we have that already lined up. And so while that process is going on and the properties being, the abatements taking place, we can be moving right behind that with getting the bids for the demo so they can happen back to back. So what we don't want, so if we can start this process now, thinking that it doesn't make sense to have this empty building sitting there and just go ahead and demo it. I'm just trying to line things up. So my goal would be, if we were going to demo, if we move forward with demoing this, that we'd line it up so that it would take place once the properties on either side are vacant after May 8th. Most likely, if the board approves renting those, the leases would start in August. So we wouldn't have tenants living right next door while there's construction going on for a demo of a property. So.
Is there this may be premature, but is there a proposed lease with Granger?
I don't believe there is, but I would, I know Tom Fehrenbach's more involved in that, and so I'd ask him to answer that question, but I don't believe so. I just know they've spoken to, I believe, Tom about it, and then the Granger Construction actually reached out to me about the property also, about the potential thing that is, wanting to know, are we interested in demoing it, and, just their interest of wanting to use that for.
Okay. That's very helpful. I just want to know the timing of all of this. So
right.
If in fact one of the Evergreen properties is going to be demolished, it would possibly happen this May with action taken by the DDA this month.
Yeah, this month, I mean, right, it would start the process this month if the board says, yes, let's start moving down that path. At least I could go, the first step would be to issue a RFP for the asbestos abatement and the hazardous material removal. And then we would have those, and then I would include in the RFP that RFP that they submit, that their price is good for 90 days. So that takes us out to May. that we're locked in with, so during that time, negotiation can happen with MSU FCU if they want to use that. We also can determine, are we able to find some grant funds to cover this? Is MSU FCU going to cover the demo cost? Those types of things, but at least we're getting the ball rolling instead of waiting till May and then saying, okay, now let's bid this out and then let's bid out the demo. So I'm just,
And who is it you're reaching out to with regard to potential funds for the demo outside of who you've referenced? Is it potentially money coming from MEDC or the state, the environmental?
So what I did is I reached out to Jeff Huntington. He's with the State Land Bank, and that's who I worked with before when we received the funds for 303 Abbott. And at this time, when I did some research, they only have funds available for rural redevelopment. They don't have anything for the same grant available that we had when we applied for 303 Abbott. In saying that there may be some money, and this is not a guarantee, there may be some money that's coming through Treasury that may have to be used for these types of projects for demolition. And so they've added me as, a potential applicant for that process. And they're just asking me to check back with them every few weeks to see if there's any progress on that. So, so I'm looking into that. I haven't come across anything else at this point. The other option would be to work, if we are going to work and allow Granger to use that as a yard, that we could, as part of that agreement with them, that they would be responsible for the covering the cost, or maybe even sharing cost or covering the cost of the asbestos abatement and the demo. So these are all things we can, that can be negotiated. I just, I just was trying to plan ahead because of the contractors are actually very busy right now. And so that's another reason why I would hate to bid, send an RFP out in May and be told, oh, well, we can't get out there until August. I'd rather do an RFP now saying you're guaranteeing your prices for 90 days, and then they can come in May 15th and start their work, and we can follow right behind that. So that was my thought in that.
Yeah, thank you, Heather. I really appreciate the background. Jim, you had a question?
Yeah, I have a question back related to public comment on the Evergreen properties. And I don't know who is appropriate to answer that question. Are these properties cash flow positive? In other words, does the income on the properties cover all the direct property related expenses as well as the debt expenses, principal and interest? I see that the lease rental income budget for the year is $261,500 on the Evergreen properties line. And then the expenses are $480, and then there's a reappropriated equity line item. Can you someone remind me what the reappropriated equity line covers and whether those properties are cash flowing?
So for the properties themselves, if you take out the principal and debt service, that payment, they are cash flow positive. But when you add that in on top of it, the DDA is supplementing, that's that reappropriated equity. We're using some of the DDA's fund balance to cover those expenses for the Evergreen properties.
Okay, thank you. So is the way to look at it that these, I know we would, the goal is to develop the properties, and there's a certain amount of financial input that needs to be done since we purchased, the DDA purchased these properties earlier on. So I suppose the hope is that there would be some ultimate overall positive good that comes from the redevelopment. That's what DDAs do, that energizes the downtown area. And secondly, that in the sale process, hopefully we would recover some of the DDA costs if we have an optimal sale. We obviously don't know what the sale price will be. We've just got the exclusive agreement at this point. So, the hope would be that that there is a sales price tag on the DDA properties that allows us to recoup some of those costs that are devoted out of the DDA budget to float this property as we move forward with the redevelopment. So okay, thank you for helping me on that.
Yes.
Thanks, Jim. Any additional questions for Heather about the Evergreen properties? Hearing none, let's move on to any committee member comments or concerns. Any additional discussion we need to have? All right, well, I appreciate everyone's time. It looks like this meeting is soon to adjourn, and those that are participating in project and infrastructure, we'll see you in about a half hour. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Approved by Jim. All
Second.
those in favor, say aye. Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Meeting- Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.